Hello and welcome to Katrinas Creations. This is the Friday episode, and today we are going to be talking about short rows for knitting. What are they used for, and how to do them. We also are going to have a getting to know you segment where you're going to meet one of the viewers. So before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about what short rows are and what they're used for. They are primarily used for shaping. So you use them a lot with the heel, like around your Achilles heel on a sock. So it gives that curved effect. They can usually be used with doing like a crew neck sweater. In this case, this is one of my shawl designs. They start out small like this, and then they gradually widen until they have formed the whole length of the scarf. So this pattern, by the way, is one that I designed. It is called the basket wave. There is a link to it down below in the patterns. Under my patterns, if you click that, you'll see it. What this is a group of short rows, and each solid segment is a different variation of the basket weave pattern. So with that, I am going to get the camera turned around so that I can show you a little bit more detail, and we can talk about how to do short rows. All right, so this is the basket wave pattern. Ignore the mess because this is a general hot mess right now. I discovered when I pulled it out of the closet that apparently I have a dropped stitch or something, and I now have a big hole. So this is going to get ripped out and redone. But just for the general idea of the technique, you can see how you start with something narrow, and the short rows create this wider section. You can see it keeps getting wider and wider as we go until it gets to the final end width here. So how are short rows done? There are two main methods. Basically, a short row is going only part way across, not continuing the knit all the way across, but to go part way across and then turn and go back the other direction. There's only one problem. If you do it just turning your work and starting back over again, you will get a hole in your work, which is kind of what happened in here because this was a fairly new technique to me when I made this shawl. So you can definitely tell where my short rows start and end. So what I'm going to be showing you is the correct way to do it, not the way I did it here. So there are two main techniques for doing short rows. One is called the wrap and turn. The other is called a German short row. Let me move the camera down a little bit closer so you can really see what I'm doing. All right, so I have started with just a couple rows, and I have about 20 stitches on here. So the first technique I'm going to show you is called the wrap and turn. And this is used a lot with socks. We're going to go part way across the row. So we'll go about 10 stitches in. Alright, so I have gone about 10 stitches in. I'm now going to move my yarn in between my needles so it's in the front. And I'm going to take this next stitch right here, and instead of going in like a regular knit stitch like this, I'm going point to point, which would be like purling a stitch. So I'm going to slip that stitch on. See, this is still sitting in the front. I'm going to wrap it around like that. So I have circled that slipped stitch. Then I'm going to turn my work. Here you can see that stitch again. Slide it back on and then move that yarn to the back. So I have completely encircled that slipped stitch, and then I would knit back the way I came. So there you can see where that slipped stitch is and where I have encircled the yarn. So let's do it again. We'll pretend that this is going to be my end stitch for the short row. I'm going to move my yarn to the front, slip it as if to purl, wrap that yarn around the back. So there it is, encircling the front part of the stitch. Then I'm going to turn it, slip that stitch back over to the right again, move my yarn, and then I'm going to knit back. So I've completely encircled this particular stitch. So that is the wrap and turn technique. The next technique is called a German short row. This is what you're going to use usually when you're shaping a neck. So let's go a few stitches in. 1, 2. All right, so we'll say that this is where we are going to do our German short row stitch. So I'm going to do that last stitch. Now I'm going to turn my work, and I want this yarn to be in the front for this first stitch, because I'm going to slip it as if to purl, like that. Yarn still in the front, and then I'm going to pull the yarn to the back of the needle. So it now looks as if there's 2 stitches there instead of 1. So pull that again. Here is that stitch, and I'm going to pull the yarn. I'm going to pull the yarn up and over the needle. So it's lifting the stitch up so that both of the legs are exposed. And then I'm going to knit back the direction that I came. And you can look and you can see where that stitch is right here. You can see the 2 double legs right there. When you come back again, you'll knit right over to, you'll knit those 2 legs of that 1 stitch together. So let's do it again. I'll get to the end of this row and then turn around. All right. Let me get a couple rows in. Let me get a couple stitches in here. All right, we'll say that this is going to be our stitch. So we're going to knit that stitch, turn your work, slip that last stitch purlwise to the right needle with your yarn still in the front. Give it a tug so that both of the legs of that stitch are exposed. And your yarn is now in the back. And then you are going to knit back the way you came. And again, when you come back to this double stitch here, you're going to knit those 2 legs of that stitch together. So it'll be back down to 1 stitch. So you can see how the stitch is already widened. You can see it's here. It's 2 rows, and by the time I've gotten here, it's now 4. And you don't have a hole in the middle of it. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please click that little red subscribe button down below. With that, we are going to get to know one of the viewers. Her name is Jaslyn, and she was a recent winner in one of our giveaways. So with that, I'm going to roll the footage that Jaslyn sent me so you can learn a little bit more about her. So I hope you've enjoyed this segment, and I will see you again tomorrow to check out what I've been working on this week. And with that, I will see you again tomorrow. Bye, everybody.